guys, I mean, we got 4 teams from SA. We've only got 2 from China. Like, these regions are all mismatched. I mean, I would never think that we were here from what we saw last year at TI 11.
Oh, definitely. Like, things that have been changing in Dota for a while now. A lot of these regions that have been considered weaker back in the day got a lot of coaches infiltrating those regions, building up the scene, and now you can see the results. Like, SA only 4 teams here. China, on the other hand, not looking so tough at TI, but with only 2 teams. At the same time, those 2 teams could do a lot.
Yeah, and people used to talk about, the alternating years. That was between China and Europe. That applied when Seattle was the home of TI. So maybe now we're back in Seattle. It could continue.
You're right. Maybe that was the change-up. It was all location dependent, so we could potentially see the cream of the crop of that China region coming back. But you guys might be surprised that there's 4 groups. Maybe you're not up to date with how all of the Road to International is going to be playing out. And so to make sure you get all that information, we have a little bit of a video explaining it.
This year, we are introducing the newly formatted group stage on the Road to the International. In this new format, 20 teams are divided into 4 groups, with each team playing each other twice and the last place teams being eliminated at the end of the second day. Of the remaining 16 teams, the winner of each group chooses their next opponent from the 3rd or 4th place team in another group, whilst the remaining teams of those groups get matched together. With the matchups for days 3 and 4 decided, these best-of-3 series determine who begins in the upper or lower bracket at the playoff stage on the Road to the International. Having now arrived at the playoffs, we begin our 16-team double elimination bracket to continue the Road to the International. The 4 winners in the upper bracket will advance directly to the upper bracket of the International, whilst the losing teams battle it out in the lower bracket to claim the remaining 4 spots. With the 8 teams decided, the stage is set for a double elimination bracket, which will determine who will lift the Aegis and become the International 2023 champion.
This new format does put a lot on the line for group stages. I mean, the fact that it's 4 groups with 5 teams, we could be seeing, well, we are going to be seeing 4 teams going home in 2 days' time. That's going to be their end to their road to the international, and that's putting a lot on how many games are going to be played today too.
Yeah, I think I really like this new format. I think it's great how you have these teams fight it up and then the kind of seeing matches afterwards, but definitely the big highlight is that one team eliminated from the groups. It kind of changes things up where you can't have that slow start. I look back at Team Spirit, who won the international a couple of years ago, and they started the group stage really poorly. They went 2 wins, 6 losses before winning their next 8 games. You can't really have that slow start. You're going to come out guns blazing because otherwise you could get eliminated. Yeah,
and outside of being eliminated, it feels like coming first is where a lot of that importance and that priority is, Lizard, and kind of second, third, fourth is this, you don't really mind too much where you place it because it really comes down to first in that opposing group.
Yeah, I can see that because you're choosing your opponent, right? And then it might be a little bit easier for you to go through the rest of the bracket. At the same time, I look at these groups, like everyone is strong. Like maybe you have that one team that looks like they're gonna go home in about 24, 30 hours. But if you get to choose between 3rd and 4th, the choice is really difficult. Like you might be paralyzed by the choice actually. Like you're just looking at, do I play versus these guys or these that are even stronger?
That's come the meta for some teams. They're like, we're just going to let fate decide because if, I think it was one of the things Blitz said on Twitter. It's like, if you care about who's in your group, you're not going to go far. It's kind of the same when picking your opponent. If you're a team who wants to win TI and is a real top contender, at some point you just can't care who you're facing.
Yeah, so many choices. In fact, some of our audience might be paralyzed for choice because we've got 5 streams going on. Each stream is going to be having 5 BO2, so this is your schedule. Keep a close eye on what teams you want to be following. Here on Stream A, we will mostly be looking at Tundra and VP. Those teams will be playing 2 best-of-2s here on this one each. But obviously we have other streams. Stream B, if you guys want to follow that one, if you're a Liquid fan, if you're an EG fan, then you can kind of just have your eyes glued to that one, Lizard.
Yeah, like on Stream B, Liquid dominating with 2 games, EG as well. It's going to be an interesting one. We're going to be sticking to Stream A, right? Like that's going to be ours. But some of these streams, like Stream C, this looks like completely my zone. Eastern Europe, we get Team Spirit.
You actually started a petition. You're like, can we rename this? Rename this one to Stream
exactly.
A?
Can we? This should be Stream E. Anyways, like
Even that first match, Spirit versus 9 Pandas, is just so juicy. The inter-region rivalry is so good. Then you go to Group D. This is the one for the NA viewers. You've got NA represented heavily here with Nouns, TSM, Gaming Gladiators.
All the 100 viewers on this stream, anyway.
They're gonna absolutely love it. All their points to stream either. That one's for all of our SA fans. Thunder Awakening Keedstar is gonna be our main shining ones there. But there are teams that are gonna be flip-flopping around. So I feel like if you're a Bet Boom or a Quest fan, that one's gonna be a lot hard to keep track of. They're all over each stream there, but that's great for them because we're gonna be seeing a lot of them as well. A little bit of them here. But the team that we joked about being over on that other stream, I already forgot what team it was, so it doesn't matter. Instead, we're going to talk about our tournament schedule. We talked about the format, and format's all well and good, but if you guys don't know where they are going to be taking place, what dates it's going to be, it's every weekend. So we're obviously starting off here on the 12th, then it's going to be the playoffs. The road to the international is continuing on the 20th, but TI, the finals, the weekend that everyone's paying attention to, 27th to the 29th over there. And our first matchup, this is what I wanted to talk about. Tundra, TSM, that's what we're going to be seeing. So we're going to be having our NA fans over here too. You know, everyone in the NA time zone for Seattle. Might be a little bit more than 100 viewers, Lizard.
It might be, at least for this match. Like Tundra and TSM, it's going to be an interesting one. Like TSM so far internationally, they haven't really done a lot. But speaking of international, like that team is filled with like international players. They're not true. They are NA, but when you look at them, they even have a Brit. It's not going to be easy for them to play versus 8 Aegises.
Not many teams can say they have a Brit. That's often underrepresented region.
Is it the first British player on TI? It might be.
I think it might be actually. Yeah.
I feel he is. Yeah, Ari. Like, good job.
Yeah, TSM did go through that really big roster shuffle from when we saw them in TI11. Obviously, 3 of their roles changing. We got Kasana coming in for the offlane for them. Ari, you already talked about coming in too. And then they also picked up Whitemon themselves and Moon going to coach for them. So they've done great when it came to NA DPC, but internationally they've fallen that little bit short. Kind of 13th, 14th is where we've seen them mostly place.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because they have stuck together. A lot of teams, once you get those kind of international results, because that's what you're going to value those results more than just playing within your region. But the fact they've stuck together means they think they can, figure something out. And I don't think they're going to be pushovers when it comes to, actually playing here in the road to the international, and then, hopefully at the international itself, because they've had kind of that past success. So, that TSM team with Moon has had good results when it comes to the big stage. So even though it's not been the best year for them, I would definitely not count them out by any means.
Yeah, I mean, they directly qualified, right? They had enough points. They were able to make it. They didn't have to go through those qualifiers at all. But we look at Tundra, and they've had a very weird year. They've had great results, but, with Suxa coming out, we've got 9 going down to pose 4, and then we're seeing Topson coming in and substituting for themselves. So they've had a lot of different substitutes throughout the year, some good results. They came 3rd in Bali with Aoi standing in as well. So now they've had more time to gel with Topson. Do you see a lot for this team? Could they be a slow starter as well, Gods?
They definitely could be. I feel like they're almost like this wild card where it's like anything can happen, then they could just come out and dominate everyone, or it could be a little bit like, they're got to explore themselves, figure out how things are going to work, even though they've had Topson around them for a bit, being obviously scrimming and getting used to playing with him. It still could be a bit of an adjustment, but I think the nice thing going for them is that Topson at least I think has a kind of similar playstyle in some ways to what 9 did, so I think they're going to be able to at least adjust fairly quickly. It's probably a harder adjustment for 9 than it is for Topson,
and he might actually have some pressure, Topson that is, because right now you have this position 4 that's actually a mid player, used to be a mid player. What does a position 4 do? You just run around the map and you look at your mid laner and what he's doing when you need to help. So now Topson knows that 9 is watching him. There might be a little bit of pressure there.
You reckon? Well. I feel like Topson is the type that doesn't succumb to pressure. He's like,
he definitely doesn't. He's proven that so many times before, right? But now you're actually kicking someone away from his position, more or less, right? Like you're taking that position from 9, and 9 is an amazing mid laner. So it's going to be interesting to see the 2 of them actually work, because they are going to be working a lot together in that mid lane.
Yeah, I do want to talk more on the expectations as well. Do you feel that TSM might have that advantage because there isn't this expectation that other people are placing on them? They're like, hey, let's make it out of groups, like this is it. Like, we can show that we can go a little bit of the distance, whereas Tundra, they're trying to defend that title from last year.
Yeah. It always can be good to go a bit overlooked, but I think what teams have learned when it comes to TI is you got to prepare for everyone. You can't take anyone lightly. I think over the years there were times where people looked at certain teams or even regions. If you look at South America, where it's like, these teams are not going to compete on the same level as others. But then time and time again, you get proven wrong. Like, wait a second, we got to treat everyone seriously, no matter, even if they were a qualifier team coming out of, some underrepresented region. So I think that's going to be the approach to anyone playing against TSM as well. For Tundra, though, there is going to be a target on them because, returning champions. Every year, returning champions, it's just like, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And what, a week, 10 days ago, there was a new patch?
No, we haven't even talked about that yet.
It's kind of hard to prepare for every single team, but you have to. So you can't really let your guard down. You might go home in 30 hours if you make a mistake or two.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like this patch is big enough that you could see a certain team being favored more towards it? Or what we saw in Dream League Season 21 leading into this is probably similar to playstyles? And...
From all the talk with coaches and players...
oh, you've been doing the rounds while at the hotel.
Yeah, a little bit. And from my own pub experience, I feel like it's going to be very interesting. Like, we might see some heroes that you don't necessarily expect at certain roles.
Mm-hmm. I also, just having a bit of a chit-chat too, TSM picking up another coach for themselves. Do you think this is going to be something extra for them? What do you think Moon might have been lacking when it came to coaching that could now be elevated by having a second coach for themselves?
I think often it's just about having more eyes, like just having a fresh perspective, especially when some of their international results haven't been quite what they would have hoped. So having a second coach, whether they who could maybe focus more on, let's say, analyzing certain movements, warding positions, just the more people you have to study the data, because especially during the group stage, there's all these games going at once. It's almost impossible for even one coach to just track everything, and they're trying to focus. I just hone in on their current game being played. You can't watch the other games, but it's kind of important to take in all the other data. If one team's dominating with a certain hero or strategy, you need to kind of pick up on that quickly. So multiple coaches at TI, I think, is just important.
Just bring 5 coaches. The more the merrier. But when I imagine Moonmeander, like, I always remember those streams and him sitting in his chair screaming, motivating his teammates. Like, let him focus on that. Get someone else for all
you
the
want him to
stats,
be like
for all
more
the
the morale and
there you go.
Okay, so Moon maybe taking a bit more of a morale approach. We'll see if it does work for them. When it comes to this matchup, it's a BO2. Do you want to quickly put out some predictions? 1-1, 2 someone very quickly.
Are we gonna be...
One just feels like the safe call here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 2-0 for Tundra. Like, I have faith in them. Actually, no matter what happens, we all know it's going to be a very interesting matchup just because of Topson on mid as well in Tundra. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, no matter what's going to be happening, it is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm excited for it. It is TSM up against Tundra. And so you're both just going to go for the safe 1-1.
Oh, you said
no.
I'm playing it safe.
You're just like, I haven't been around for a little bit. I just want to be nice to everyone.
Yeah,
100%.
I'm not making any. 2-0 TSM.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I tried to bully him
Let's
into
go into
it.
Dota.
We've heard it from Blizzard and Gods here, so let's hear from our casters, Beakoff and Lacoste.
Welcome to the road to the international. It's gonna be fun. I am Beakoff, joined here by Lacoste. Gonna be a fun Group D matchup. Tundra, TSM, Lacoste. How are you feeling right now? First game's coming in, and seems like it's gonna be an exciting one to start.
Feeling good, feeling great. It's going to be great Dota ahead of us. Every single year TI happens, I'm like, I can't believe this is happening, this anticipation coming into it with everything around. Like, you want to play as much Dota as you possibly can, watch as much Dota. And this is a good spot to be in, to watch some good Dota. Like, these are the best teams in the world for a good reason. And I think this matchup is going to be fairly interesting, because if you look at how they played before, like TSM, like you would expect maybe Tundra as also being a team that, is a defending champion from the last year. Riyadh Masters, Tundra did manage to beat them, but they also drew in the groups. Same goes with the Dream League. So pretty familiar. Like, they played a decent amount of games because there was a lot of tournaments this year. And of course, everybody's going to be talking about Topson, who's missing on camera. He's just chilling for now, somewhere in there. Oh, there he is. There he is. Needs to wash his face, but it's going to be good. Like, I like the way they played during the Dream League, because they're very unpredictable in terms of what they're going to pick. I've seen some really innovative picks coming out from him, and when you check Dota Pro Tracker, you know that he's going to be playing a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, it seems like mid has kind of found its availability to get a little bit weird. Things have definitely expanded. I know at the Asian Games, Earth Spirit was a very popular pick, and I know Topson's definitely been one of those guys in the past who loves an Earth Spirit kind of player. But what are you expecting? What's different in the mid lane hero-wise? Like, what's one or two of those heroes that you want to see come out in this first game?
I think we might see, maybe not in this game, but I think in this series, Thompson's gonna bang out Ogre. Because a lot of these, like, people try to theory craft, mostly like offlaners, going for this Blade Mail Heart, also some of the mid laners like Kunkka. I think this is still super strong, even though, like, both of these items got slightly nerfed. It's still super popular. And the big one is TSM banning out Bristleback, because Bristol has been on the rise as well. 33, one of his like most played heroes in the recent week. Just like becomes super tanky. Vanguard, Aghanim, Scepter, Shard, then you pick up the Bloodstone, you become super annoying, one of the better heroes to clear the stack. And we also know that Tundra is a team that stacks a lot. And also we've seen like teams shifting away from these standard picks. Like you could see like how meta changes, where people would immediately take one of these strong position 1 carries like Gyro, Sven as well.
Yeah, Sven was popular from Ame. You know, he was one of those picks that I think he really went to in the Asian Games. And there's that Earth Spirit we already talked about, you know, making its way into the first pick for Tundra. They went to the Treant on TSM. Nothing too out of the ordinary right now. One thing I do want to mention is that Muerta ban. I know a lot of people were talking about how this might be the carry of the tournament, but I'm interested to get your thoughts too on like every TI there's a TI meta, right? But does it change when the groups are smaller and things are a little bit different? You're not going up against